We're here with head football coach Nick Bobeck following Central Oklahoma's 31-21 win over fourth-ranked Northwest Missouri in MIAA play in Edmond. Coach, why don't you just make an opening statement about the game tonight first?
Yeah. You know, here's the thing that we've talked about in the locker room is you just gotta find a way to continue to compete. You know, there's been several things that happened even before the season started that that could have just, our kids could have just folded the tent, and it shows character of our kids to continue fighting. You know, you go on the longest road trip of the year last year and you find a way to get a win, you build some confidence, and you have a great week of practice this week. And we've been telling our kids the entire time is you're really, really talented. You are really talented, but you got to execute, you got to play clean, and you got to be physical. And when you do that, you're going to beat anybody. You can beat anybody when you do that. And and that they finally did that tonight. And it was a clean football game against a really good opponent. Those guys are good, and we made them uncomfortable. Defensively, we really put pressure on the quarterback and made him get off his spot. I think we only had 2 sacks, but we really made that kid move, and there were some errant throws, and then there were some physical football plays on the defensive side of the ball that that I was really proud of. On the offensive side of the ball, our kids, I'm really proud of Chandler Garrett. Being able to step into starting role, and he went out there and competed his tail off, and hit some big balls. And that's something that he does well. And he's going to continue to function in that role. And he needs to be. We're talented at the wide receiver position. There's no question about that. We've got some really talented kids out there. Where we've struggled really is along the offensive line, and that's always the worry when you play Northwest Missouri, is because they're so good along the defensive front. And I was really proud of those kids. I mean, we give up 4 sacks, but we played well up front. And a football team that came into this game giving up 7.7 points per game, and you score 31. You know against those guys that you have to hit the big ones, and we were able to hit the big ones. And Coach Hood called a really good football game. Was aggressive from the time that it started, and we're really proud of those guys. They did a great job.
What were your thoughts on Seth Carmack's performance in his first start?
Well, Seth's been starting all year.
He has? Okay.
Yeah, he's been starting all year at left guard, but he is finally starting to figure out how talented he is. He is a really talented kid. Now, late, he misses an assignment on a counter play on the 3rd and 3. On the counter play, the man crosses his face, but other than that, I think he played really well. He's a kid that's really kind of coming into his own, and I'm proud of that kid. He's a really talented dude, but he has to have the kind of confidence in himself that I've got in him. And I think that's something that a lot of young kids have to grow into, and he's doing a good job of that.
I know you mentioned Chandler earlier, but I mean, his performance today was pretty impressive, I would say. So what do you?
Yeah, I think he's a competitive kid. He's got he's just got something about him. It's not always pretty. Some of that stuff doesn't look very good out there. But he just competes, and our guys buy into him because he's a tough son of a gun. He runs a couple draw plays for huge football plays there in that second half. And I just can't say enough good about him. He was in a competition for the starting job and lost. Had a role last year and just was a great teammate. He's been a great teammate this year, and he had an opportunity to go out there and show what he can do, and he did. And those are character people that you can build on, and is a great example for everybody in that locker room, including me.
Your secondary was caught in a lot of one-on-one situations, it seemed like. What did you think of their performance?
I think we played pretty well in the secondary, honestly. It was, I think, people will say, well, the game was called odd and so forth. I think it was pretty consistent. We had 11 penalties, I think, and they had 7, and a lot of them were kind of the same type penalties, and I think it was called fair, it was called even, and You got to adjust. But when those guys had to play in those one-on-one situations, for the most part, they did a really good job. They did a really good job, and we forced them. On the defensive side of the ball, we forced them to play a bunch of man, and that created some penalties and some big first downs, which you don't see very often, that you've got both football teams have 6 first downs by penalty. But that's the type of game that we were playing, and we knew it. You know it every time that you play those guys. I thought those kids did a really good job in the secondary.
You had the halftime lead. How were you able to keep your team focused to pull off the win? They
did that. That's not coaching. That's players. And that's the thing is our job as coaches is to try to put them in as good a situation as possible so they can be successful. But at the end of the day, it's still on the kid. And they did a really good job. I didn't have to say much at halftime at all. They knew what they were doing. But the thing about it is, it was really, for me as a coach, you walk in the locker room and there wasn't a lot of rah-rah, there wasn't a lot of, hey, great job, this, and then when you expect it, you go out there and perform, and doesn't need to be a lot of patting on the back. Hey, just keep working. Hey, keep working. Find a way to finish.
What went into that fake field goal?
That's something that Coach Holland went back through the annals and found some weakness, and actually found that and the way it worked out was not the way it was supposed to work out. It was supposed to be a pass to Dante McGee in that situation had he got out, and that guy pulled him up, he'd have just dumped it, and it probably would have been a touchdown. But great job by Coach Holland finding a weakness there, and go into football games like that with like this without some of those in your holster. So we weren't afraid to call it, and kids executed it well, and I think it does a disservice to the kids to work that stuff if you don't plan on calling it. And we've done that, and we're gonna go play aggressive. You go play to win. You don't go play to just compete. And I think our kids did a great job of that.
Finally, you started 0-2, now you're 2-2. What does this win mean to the program moving forward?
Well, I think it just means we're 2-2 right now. Honestly, I mean, I know that's just very, very bland, but there's 7 more football games, and to be honest with you, you're probably going to have to be perfect to make the playoffs. I mean, that's what it means. I mean, to be honest with you, you go 9-2. If you can finish the season 9-2, you got a chance to get in the playoffs because you've beaten everybody. But right now, you got to move towards Fort Hays State, who was undefeated and conference champion last year, and played in the playoffs. So, you got to go in there with some confidence, and you got to go compete. They're a physical football team. We're going to play them up there at night, and our kids are going to have to be ready to go.
All right, Central Oklahoma takes on Fort Hays State in Week 5 at Fort Hays State. Visit Broncosports.com for more on the Broncos' victory over Northwest Missouri, and for all your other Bronco needs. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.